I never imagined I'd risk it all, but exposing the CEO led to unbelievable sacrifices. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Thursday, the air crackling with a tension I could taste on my tongue. My heart raced as I sat in my tiny office, fluorescent lights buzzing above. The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing against me with weighty secrets. I had stumbled upon something monumental, something that could ruin lives, including mine. I felt like a fragile glass statue, ready to shatter. My hands trembled. Lucas, my little brother, had always looked up to me. He believed I could do anything, but I was crumbling. Just 2 nights before, he had texted me a string of heart emojis after I told him about my promotion. "You're going to be the best, sis," he had written. I had smiled then, but now that smile felt hollow. The truth was, I wasn't confident. I was terrified. The deeper I dug into the company's records, the more details twisted around me like thorny vines. I discovered lavish spending, shady deals hidden behind corporate jargon, and employees silenced like they were ghosts. Each finding sent shockwaves through me. I was treading into dangerous waters, and the weight of knowing was pressing down on my chest like an anchor point. One particularly dark night, I logged onto the corporate database and saw a file titled Project Omen. My breath caught in my throat as I opened it, revealing staggering numbers alongside names of coworkers I'd shared coffee breaks with. My skin prickled. This was bigger than anything I had ever imagined. If I exposed this, it would be chaos. But my heart ached for the truth buried deep beneath lies. My integrity screamed at me to a CT'd. IT wasn't just about the company, it was about all those people left behind, those I called friends. Maya, who always smelled like fresh coffee and made me laugh when things got tough, or Jack, whose warm smile masked his chronic anxiety. What would happen to them if I stayed silent? The silence grew thicker, choking me with each heartbeat. I had to make a choice. A choice that meant risking my career, my safety, and possibly my family. I could feel the cold grip of fear around my ankles, pulling me down into the unknown. I snapped my laptop shut, heart racing, but the resolution still flickered inside me, bright and daring. But just when I thought I was ready to act, the phone rang. It was my boss, the CEO himself, his voice dripping with charm, yet filled with a darkness that sent chills through my spine. "We need to talk," he said, and I could hear the faintest hint of menace wrapped in those words. What did he know? Did he already suspect me? My stomach dropped, my thoughts spiraled. I felt like a moth, drawn dangerously close to a flame. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The room felt stifling as I stared blankly at my phone, the CEO's voice echoing like a sinister lullaby in the back of my mind. I could already picture him, leaning back in his leather chair, his fingers steepled beneath his chin, calculating my every move. This was the moment everything would change, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for the consequences. That night, I hardly slept. Shadows danced across my walls, the faint glow of my laptop illuminating the panic scribbled across my notepad. Project Omen. The name itself struck fear into my heart. I'd have to act fast, but I couldn't shake the idea that someone was always watching me, now waiting for the perfect moment to strike. By morning, I swallowed my dread and sent an email to Maya, hoping her innate optimism would somehow reassure me. "Can we meet for coffee?" I wrote. Need for normalcy surged through me, a small flicker of hope amid an ever-darkening world. I craved the warmth of her laughter, the way it could wrap around me like a hug. The cafe buzzed with noise, but within that chaos, I felt a fragile peace when I saw her, clutching a steaming cup, her smile bright enough to chase away the clouds hanging over me. We settled into our usual spot at the corner table, and for a moment, I let myself breathe, forgetting the storm brewing just outside. "Hey. It's been ages since we've caught up. How's the new role treating you? She asked, oblivious to the shadowy turmoil lurking beneath my surface. Busy, I replied, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. The momentary escape into friendship was like a bomb, but I knew I couldn't hide forever. Maya's brow furrowed slightly, a hint of concern slipping into her eyes. You sure you're okay? You look a bit tense. I'm fine. Just juggling too many things. I brushed her worry aside, but as I spoke, my heart hollered the truth. I was unraveling. What I was planning could destroy everything, a revelation that could shatter so many lives, including hers. Yet even as I veiled my turmoil, I felt a gentle tug towards hope. I've been thinking about taking a trip somewhere, you know? Just to recharge, I muttered, gripping my coffee tightly, allowing the heat to seep into my palms, wishing it could warm my chilling thoughts. Wow. Where? You should take Lucas too. He'd love it. Maya's enthusiasm was infectious, and I caught myself nodding, picturing laughter-filled days, away from the encroaching darkness of numbers and ethics. But the vision quickly turned into dread as I thought about the implications of leaving. Would I have enough time? What if the walls of my careful life began to crumble in my absence? As we chatted, my phone suddenly vibrated on the table, interrupting the moment. It was a text from Lucas. Hey, sis. Can we talk? I need to ask you something important. My pulse quickened. The last time he needed to talk, it was because a classmate had bullied him. I quickly excused myself to the restroom, the rattle of anxiety making my heart pound with urgency. What is it? I typed back, heart racing as I fidgeted with the edge of my sleeve. Is everything okay with you and the company? I heard some strange things, his words cut through me like shards of ice. He couldn't know anything, could he? I rushed through my reply, assuring him everything was fine, that I was just busy. But as I re-entered the cafe, I saw Maya staring at me with an intensity one hadn't noticed before, as if she sensed the unraveling threads of my carefully swept secrets. What's really going on? She pressed, leaning closer, her voice barely a whisper. A hesitation hung between us, heavy with the weight of my silence. I so desperately wanted to confide in her, to share the burden I was carrying, but fear gripped at me like a vice. I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes growing into something more profound, fear for me, fear for her. Like a note of ominous music rising, my phone buzzed again with another alert. This time, it was an email notification, a corporate missive. My heart raced as I glanced down at the familiar logo. The subject line froze me, meeting to discuss project. Omen attendance mandatory. The room spun around me as dread settled like lead in my stomach. I suppressed the urge to recoil, struggling to come to terms with what I knew I had to do. I was out of time. Sorry, I just remembered something, I murmured towards Maya, urgency clawing at my throat. I have to, but her hand shot out towards mine, gripping it tightly. Wait. Don't go just yet, she insisted. You're not okay, and I can help. Just let me in. The warmth from her touch seeped into my skin, but it was eclipsed by an impending storm. The choice rested on my shoulders: stand with Maya in this moment of vulnerability, risking everything I held, or retreat back into the shadows, where secrets festered and darkness lingered, always threatening to engulf me. As the door of my life swung toward uncertainty, I swallowed against the fear rising in my throat, realizing that every step I took would echo far beyond the walls surrounding us. I opened my mouth to speak, to unburden myself at last, but just then, the air thickened with dread as the cafe's door swung wide and a figure stepped in, someone I recognized all too well, the CEO, gaze fixed straight towards me. Panic surged as our eyes locked, and in that split second, I realized that my moment of refuge was about to shatter into a million pieces. The cafe's hushed chatter faded to an eerie silence as the CEO made his entrance, a looming presence that darkened the already heavy atmosphere. His sharp suit seemed to absorb the warmth of the cafe, leaving a chill in the air that bore down on me. My heart raced, torn between the visceral instinct to flee and the desperate need to remain anchored to the small comfort of Maya's hand gripping mine. Is everything okay here? He inquired, his voice smooth but carrying an edge that sent shivers down my spine. Maya, I started, my throat tightening under the weight of my impending confession, but I was interrupted as the CEO advanced toward our table, a predatory glint in his eye. "You're about to find out how serious things really are," he said, his gaze drilling into mine with an unsettling intensity. I could feel the air thicken with the unsaid words hanging heavy between us. Did he know what I was contemplating? Maya slowly withdrew her hand, confusion painting her features as the moment shifted like shifting sands beneath us. Her innocent questions morphed into an uncomfortable scrutiny, and I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind as she pieced together the fragments of my life I had so cautiously kept hidden. "Just a friendly catch-up," I stammered, forcing a laugh that felt hollow and unconvincing. The CEO took a seat across from us, completely dismissing my discomfort. "Friendly catch-ups don't usually occur with people like you, don't you think?" His words dripped with condescension. "I'm afraid I need to talk to you, directly." Maya's head whipped back towards me, alarm widening her eyes. "What's going on, really?" She pressed, her hand now nervously fiddling with her cup. I desperately wanted to reach for her, to find safety in our connection, but I was pinned beneath the weight of the CEO's unyielding stare. I felt small, exposed, and painfully aware that the truth sat just below the surface, bubbling and waiting to be unleashed. The CEO's gaze darted between us, unraveling the tension string by string until it became unbearable. "There are things you need to understand about Project Omen," he continued, his voice lowering conspiratorially. "It has implications far beyond what you've been led to believe." Maya's hand trembled, and in that moment, I saw the flicker of fear reflected in her gaze, fear for me, but also for herself. I opened my mouth to reassure her, to tell her that everything would be okay, but the words fell flat, trapped beneath the weight of that dreadful certainty. "I'll explain later," I whispered, my voice barely audible. The CEO leaned back, folding his arms, clearly enjoying the game he was playing. "You're treading in dangerous waters, and I would hate for you to sink before you understand everything at stake. This isn't just about you anymore." Panic surged through me as he spoke those words. How much did he really know? Were my intentions already unraveling before me? My resolve faltered, and I could feel the walls around me starting to close in. "Let's step outside for a moment," he commanded then, rising without waiting for an answer, confident that I would follow. I turned to Maya, searching for some light in her eyes to guide me, yet the moment was poisoned with uncertainty. "Stay here." "I won't be long," I urged, though the quiver in my voice betrayed the growing dread within me. The air outside carried a sharp bite, and the absence of people made my heart pound louder in my chest. The CEO stood waiting, a dark silhouette against the fading light, his back to me. For a brief moment, I thought of running back inside, back to the safety of Maya and the normalcy I had clung to, but I couldn't help but follow the heaviness that pulled me forward. "Do you know what it takes to truly succeed in this world?" he began, his tone transforming into something almost reminiscent of a fatherly warning. "It takes sacrifice, a willingness to make tough decisions no one else is brave enough to make." I swallowed hard, fighting to keep my composure. "I'm not interested in your twisted morality. I deserve to know the truth." The words slipped through my lips with a fierceness I hadn't anticipated, but deep within, fear clung to me like ivy, suffocating my defiance. The CEO turned to face me, his expression inscrutable. "You have no idea how deep this runs, do you?" His eyes pierced mine, revealing the shadows lurking behind corporate success. "You might be risking not just your own career, but your family as well." A wave of nausea crashed over me, his words slicing through the armor I had built up around my heart. "What are you talking about?" I felt myself brace, instinctively retreating inward as he threw new punches into the already chaotic fray of my mind. "Your brother, Lukasz, is involved too. You could lose him if you're not careful. This isn't merely business for me," he continued, his eyes glimmering with a mix of intrigue and menace. "I can see you have potential, but if you play your cards wrong, it could all blow back on him." "Leave him out of this," I snapped, desperation flaring. The thought of Lucas caught in the crossfire of this chaos ignited a fury within me that snapped the final strand of my composure. The CEO stepped closer, invading my space with an air of menacing confidence. "Protect him or expose him." The choice is yours, he purred, before turning away, letting the lingering threat hang in the air between us like a noose. I staggered back, shock rippling through me as I struggled to contain my racing thoughts. My world had grown heavier, and every breath felt like it came with a cost. The stakes were higher than I could have imagined, and the mere thought of Lucas becoming a puppet in this game shattered the piece of my resolve that had held fast. As I stumbled back into the cafe, desperation clung to every inch of my skin. Maya lifted her gaze, searching, but all I felt was a spiraling sense of dread flowing from the revelations threatening to consume me. But before I could muster the courage to approach her, I caught sight of a figure moving toward me from the corner of my eye, a familiar silhouette that sent a jolt of fear through me. It was Lucas, his face carved in determination and a mixture of worry that intensified my panic. Is it true?" he asked, that small voice tinged with the tremors of innocence. "What they're saying about Project Omen?" In that moment, time stood still. The truth clawed at my throat, ready to spill forth, but as I met Lucas's eyes, I realized that every choice I had made had led me here, and I stood on the precipice of an unimaginable decision, one that could alter not just my fate, but his as well. The darkness loomed closer, and I was left hanging between the safety I had clutched so fiercely and the chaos threatening to unravel everything. How could I ever risk sacrificing the ones I loved to protect myself? Just as I opened my mouth to reply, uncertainty gripped me, and the truth hung like a blade above us. Lucas stood there, eyes wide with an innocence I felt crushing under the weight of my indecision. How could I tell him about the vast web of deceit sprawled around us? How could I drag him into the storm swirling in my heart? "Lucas, it's complicated," I started, my voice faltering, but the hurt in his expression deepened. He took a step closer, and I felt the full magnitude of his trust settle on my shoulders like an unbearable yoke. "Complicated?" He almost spat the word. "There are people being dragged into this, and you're my sister. You're supposed to protect me, not shield me from the truth." "Protect you?" I echoed, feeling the boundaries of our sibling bond begin to fracture. Suddenly, I wasn't just facing my own tumult, I was now in Lucas' line of fire. His questioning gaze blazed with a mixture of frustration and fear. "Am trying to be lying to me?" he interrupted, his voice cracking. Every word he hurled felt like arrows aimed at my heart, and I wanted to shield myself from them, as much as I wanted to comfort him. But the truth was there, a shadow lurking between us, a boundary I was terrified to cross. Maya appeared by my side, her presence a soft balm against the raging storm of emotions. She had overheard parts of our conversation, her brows knitted in concern. "Hey, it's going to be okay," she said, her voice steady yet holding a tremor of uncertainty. "Whatever it is, we can face it together, but could we?" The weight of the CEO's words echoed in my mind. I opened my mouth, the confessions desperately wanting to pour out. But the fear of what would follow chained my tongue. Could I even bring Lucas into this fragile chaos? Would I be pushing him into danger merely by sharing what I knew? "Maya," Lucas said, his voice hardening with determination. "We need transparency. If they're playing games with our lives, we can't step back. Lies only protect for so long." She glanced at me, silently needing assurance, but I could only shake my head, a vortex of panic swirling inside me. Just as I was about to say something, the door burst open. A sudden rush of cold air carried the faint hum of the street alongside an unexpected newcomer, a lawyer, a figure clad in a crisp suit. The moment the door swung shut, I felt a chill settle within the coolness of the cafe. "Is this where I can find the Peterson family?" he called, scanning the room until his eyes landed on us. My stomach dropped. The thin veneer of normalcy shattered in that instant. "I am sorry, who are you?" I asked, my voice steadying itself against confusion. "My name is Richard Spaulding," he said, approaching us in earnest, his demeanor professional yet underscored with urgency. "I work for a firm representing your brother's interests. We need to discuss some serious matters, very urgently." "Lucas," I said instinctively, gripping his arm, feeling the tremor of my heart match the growing tension in the air. The lawyer nodded gravely. "Yes, Lucas is at the center of this, and the implications of Project Omen go deeper than you might know. We have evidence that could potentially clear his name, but we need to act fast." Panic washed over my face. My brother's name was tangled into this web of corruption, and as the lawyer spoke, the thought of our world spiraling further into crisis loomed large. What do you mean? What you found? My voice rose as my protective instincts surged. Another flicker of uncertainty crossed Lucas' face, mingling with curiosity. What evidence? He pressed, confusion etching deeper lines of worry across his brow. Richard held up a hand, calming the storm. I can't disclose too much here, but suffice it to say that there's significant investor interest in Project Omen, and if certain accusations are proven true, well, it could lead to criminal liability for numerous parties involved. Including both of you. Horror crashed over me like waves against jagged rock. Lucas' face turned pale, and I realized that, despite the chaos that was edging in on us from all sides, we had just been dragged further into the depths. Thoughts raced in my mind, colliding violently with the stark reality of our situation. I refuse to let anyone take Lucas from me, I said, my voice trembling with resolve. If they think they can play with us, they have another thing coming. I felt that protective instinct rise anew, igniting a fire I hadn't realized lay dormant within me. But even as I formed the words, I sensed the weight of the CEO's warning. The danger still loomed ominously overhead. Would I be able to shield Lucas from the repercussions of our complicity? Was there even any way to disentangle ourselves from the chaos without further sacrificing our bonds? As the lawyer began detailing their findings, I caught Maya's worried glance, an unspoken question echoing within her. What was I willing to risk? And just then, the cafe door swung open again, and there he was once more, an unwelcome specter returning to haunt us. The CEO stood framed in the doorway, his shadow stretching out like fingers seeking to ensnare us once again. I see you've been busy, he said, his voice laced with mockery. But you need to understand, I will make sure you pay for every single transgression. You're in over your heads, and I can always take everything away. My heart pounded, my resolve crystallizing in a way I hadn't anticipated. As he stepped further into the cafe, the stakes morphed into a labyrinth of choices and sacrifices looming ever larger, and I had absolutely no idea where that path would lead. The CEO's laughter echoed through the cafe as he approached our trembling trio, each step deeper into the heart of our turmoil. I could feel an invisible barrier of dread pulsating between us, tightening with each second. My stomach churned, caught somewhere between fear and fury. Lucas stood petrified, the looming threat morphing into something I couldn't yet name. Mr. Spaulding, the CEO called out, his voice smooth as velvet but sharp as razor wire. I'm afraid you're wasting your time. You're barking up the wrong tree with these kids. This situation is far more complex than your little game of feigned concern. Richard turned to face him, his composure unwavering. Your games have already resulted in serious consequences, Mr. Dawson. It's time to stop pretending that this can continue without accountability. The atmosphere shifted, the air crackled with tension. Lucas glanced between the two men, confusion morphing into determination. What's going on? He asked, his voice unsteady yet tinged with passion. What do you mean by accountability, Lucas? This is not the time. I shot him a warning glance, but the fire in his eyes ignited a rush of pride and terror in me. The truth was jagged and painful, a gaping wound that needed to be bandaged, but I remained unable to make the dive into that abyss. It's exactly the time. Lucas shouted, the urgency issuing forth like a sudden tempest. If we're in trouble, it's our right to know what we're facing, the CEO smirked, leaning casually against a table. Ah, how brave of you, little brother. But bravery often leads to foolishness. What do you think you know? Because trust me, it's far worse than you can imagine. Richard clapped his hands once, drawing the attention back to him. Enough games. You've constructed a house of cards around this family, Dawson. The winds are shifting, and soon your empire will come crashing down. Is that a threat? The CEO sneered, his smile growing colder. I could just as easily level everything you hold dear. The threat hung in the air, heavy with foreboding. My heart raced. There it was, the specter of what our choices could cost. Would our lives be the currency in this spiraling gamble? Maya. I turned to her, seeing her eyes reflect the chaos surrounding us, a kaleidoscope of fears and questions. What if we're too late? What if we can't protect each other? Her gaze flickered to the door, the world outside beckoning, a life quiet and uneventful compared to the storm inside this cafe. We have to be brave. Together. It's not just about being brave, I muttered, anxiety curling inside me like smoke. It's about survival. As if sensing my despair, Lucas reached for my hand, squeezing it tight. We need to face whatever comes, sis. We can't let them tear us apart. Not now. Not ever. Before I could respond, the CEO straightened, his aura shifting. Well, look at that. Family bonding moments in the face of adversity. Too bad I enjoy tearing families apart. He turned on his heel, tossing a layer of fear over us as he walked away from the table. You're being played, all of you. And when the time is right, I will take what belongs to me. As he stepped out, a breath escaped my lungs, sudden silence enveloped us, leaving only the sound of my heart thudding. Is he right? Lucas whispered, uncertainty crashing through our fragile bond of solidarity. Are we being played? The layers of the evening clung to me like wet clothes. I felt suffocated under the weight of secrets and looming consequences. But suddenly, Richard pulled out a file from his briefcase, eyes gleaming with urgency. Here, read this. It contains the findings we've compiled, those who've been silenced, the secret deals made under the table. It's all connected, and it may reveal the path to saving you both. Desperation clawed at me as I opened the file, the words blurring before my eyes. This, I mumbled, my voice trembling, this could ruin everything. Maya leaned closer, the light from her phone illuminating the pages as we worked through the content. But with every revelation, every dark twist revealed, the tightening coil of fear in my chest expanded. What would happen if we were discovered? Someone is watching, Richard said, his gaze darting around the cafe. We must act decisively. As he spoke, a small slip of paper fluttered from within the file, landing softly on the table. It bore an address, stark and unassuming. What's this? I picked it up, feeling its weight settle in my hand. It's a safe house, Richard explained quickly, for those who want to escape the rising tide. It's a place you can go while we gather more evidence. But time is short. Do you think we can trust it? Maya pressed, her brow furrowing. What if it's a trap? I could feel the warmth of Lucas' hand in mine, a surge of defiance washing over me. We had reached a crossroads, and in that moment, I knew what I had to do. We don't have much choice if we're to survive. We'll go to this place, regroup, and figure out our next steps. Richard nodded, relief washing over his tense features. Good. It'll help get you there safely. We can regroup and plan for what lies ahead. But you must decide quickly. As we prepared to leave, the gnawing uncertainty wrapped itself around my heart. Was I leading Lucas into another trap, or was this a lifeline amidst the chaos? Before we could reach the door, the cafe bell jangled, and a figure stepped inside. My breath caught in my throat as the realization struck. It was someone from our past, someone whose presence held the potential to unravel everything we thought we knew. Hey, they called out, voice sing-song sweet but layered with ominous undertones. Did someone say trap? The atmosphere shifted in an instant, thick with recognition and dread. A cacophony of memories surged through me as I caught sight of her, Celia, our childhood neighbor, her hair cascading like sepia ribbons, eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and something darker. A prison of nostalgia wrapped around me, fettered to moments I never sought to relive. Celia, I breathed, each syllable heavy with the burden of our shared history. What are you doing here? Just checking in on old friends, she said casually, her lips curling into a smile that lacked warmth. You didn't think you could escape the past, did you? Especially not when there are secrets to uncover. I glanced at Lucas, who stood frozen beside me, caught in a web of disbelief. This isn't a game, Celia. We're in serious trouble, I implored, searching for a hint of empathy in her eyes. Oh, I know, she replied, stepping closer, the scent of something almost nostalgic, yet undeniably tainted, wafting between us. Trouble is precisely what drew me back into town. You're all tangled up in matters beyond your understanding. Booty, have to admit it's amusing to see you play at rebellion. Maya instinctively moved closer to Lucas, her hand brushing against his arm as she surveyed Celia's presence with suspicion. What do you want? she asked, the edge in her voice a shield forged from lingering mistrust. Want? I want to watch this unfold, of course. She tilted her head, a bemused expression dancing across her features. You're swimming in a mess, and I happen to have a talent for spotting sinking ships. But I suppose you already realized that, Richard stepped forward, his demeanor shifted from mentor to protector. Stay out of this, Celia. You don't know what you're dealing with. Oh, but don't I? She leaned back nonchalantly, crossing her arms as if this was an ordinary conversation among friends, not a duel of fates. Let's not pretend any longer. Your little field trip to safety won't be as simple as you think. You're underestimating the monster lurking just beneath the surface. Her words struck a chord, sending ripples of anxiety through me. What do you mean? I asked, my stomach knotted in apprehension. I mean, dear Kira, she said softly, her tone layered with serpentine allure, the man you're facing is more than just a businessman, he's a puppeteer, and you're all just strings. I clenched my jaw, trying to dismiss her insinuations. We can't let fear dictate our actions, that's the spirit. She laughed lightly, yet her eyes shimmered with something that chilled me. After all, what's bravery without a sense of impending doom? But mark my words, betrayal is just around the corner. Get out, I hissed, anger blazing like a flare within me. You don't know anything. On the contrary, I know everything, she smirked, taking a step back, allowing an unsettling silence to envelop us. And while I've had my fun, I can't stick around. My own ship is set to sail. With that, she turned to leave, an invisible weight trailing behind her like smoke. But just as she reached the door, she paused. Oh, and one last thing. Her voice slithered through the cracks of my resolve. Trust is a dangerous game, especially with someone who wears a smile like a mask. Make sure you look past the surface, my dear. She exited the cafe, leaving our fragile alliance in shambles, echoing with the implications of her cryptic warning. Did she really just threaten us? Maya breathed, disbelief etched on her face. She doesn't scare me, Lucas declared, although uncertainty clouded his brow. We need to stick to the plan. We can't let her poison our resolve. But doubts crept at the fringes of my mind, a nagging sense of doom nestling against my optimism. Could we trust Richard? Was the address a genuine opportunity for salvation or merely a lure to deepen our entrapment? Just when I thought I had clarity, the ground shifted beneath my feet. Let's go, I said, trying to reclaim the moment. We'll head to the safe house. But remember, we need to keep our eyes open. No more surprises. With a shared determination, we moved toward the exit, stepping outside into an uncertain dusk that hung heavier than ever. The road stretched ahead, dark and winding, as we made our way to an unknown fate. A chill whispered through the air, carrying the weight of Celia's words like a tempest brewing in the distance, and as the shadows lengthened around us, a faint glimmer of light flickered at the address we would soon reach. Moments later, as we turned onto the street where safety awaited, the tension in my heart escalated into an unbearable crescendo. Is this it? Lucas asked, his voice barely above a whisper as a rundown building shuffled into view. Before I could answer, the alley beside it erupted with noisy crash followed by frantic footsteps. I instinctively stepped back, fear clawing at my insides. And then I saw them, figures cloaked in shadow, glancing furtively toward our direction. My breath hitched, realization dawning. Run! I yelled, grabbing Lucas and Maya's hands, pulling them with me as the figures surged into the street. As we sprinted away, the thrill of pursuit drummed in my ears, a chaotic melody underscoring the culmination of our choices, weaving harder and harder toward an unknown conclusion, destiny looming less like a safety net and more like a chasm. Would we escape? Would we learn the truth? Or would that truth unravel us completely? The adrenaline surged through me, propelling each frantic step as I pulled Lucas and Maya with me, the weight of uncertainty mingling with raw fear. The dull echo of our footsteps reverberated off the crumbling brick walls, a dark symphony underscoring our desperate escape. My heart raced, matching the rhythm of the chaos behind us, but I dared not look back, fearing that one glance might tether my fate to whatever shadows pursued. Where are we going? Maya gasped, her breath short and strained. The safe house. I shouted, trying to instill a sense of purpose amidst the chaos. Yet with every stride, I questioned if that destination even offered us safety or simply another pitfall ahead. The street lamps flickered like the uncertain hopes I clung to. The night swallowed all sound except for our heavy breathing and the unmistakable thud of footsteps behind us. Lucas tightened his grip on my hand, the warmth of his palm a reminder of the life I was fiercely fighting to protect. "So this is what it feels like," he muttered, glancing backward nervously, "to feel truly alive like prey. Focus." I snapped, refusing to let panic bog us down. "We need to find a place to hide and regroup." We turned a sharp corner into an alley, the darkness wrapping around us like a shroud. The sounds of pursuit faded, but without the din, there was only the suffocating quiet, a vacuum where our racing thoughts circulated with the echoes of Celia's warning. "What if we never find the safe house?" Maya whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I swallowed hard, knowing that the stakes had grown impossibly high. "We will find it." "We have to," I asserted, though the conviction in my voice wavered. As we huddled together, raw anxiety thrumming in my veins, I couldn't help but dwell on Celia's presence, that cryptic smile, those insinuations. What if she wasn't just a messenger? What if she was right? What if trust was a double-edged sword that would cut our alliance long before the truth surfaced? A flicker of movement caught my eye at the mouth of the alley, dark shapes shifting, spreading like an ink blot, and I felt my blood run cold. "Move," I urged, adrenaline surging once more, pulling them deeper into the shadows. As we darted further down the alley, huddled against the cold brick walls, I could hear the faint murmurs of voices ahead. "Let's go back," one voice insisted, the cadence rich with authority and fear. "We can't risk being seen. I'd rather face the consequences than let any of them slip away," another countered, determination lacing their tone. Panic reigned as I exchanged anxious glances with Lucas and Maya. "What do we do?" he whispered, almost pleading. "We need to sneak past," I decided, the words barely above a murmur. "If they catch us, it'll all be over." We moved with cautious stealth, our hearts pounding against the eerie silence, like a drum calling us to battle. But as we reached the end of the alley and leaned against the cool metal of a dumpster, I froze, my eyes locking onto an unexpected sight. There, illuminated under a dim street light, stood a woman with striking features, honey-colored skin, fierce eyes, and hair tied back in an impromptu bun. It was only when she turned, her face flickering in recognition, that I saw who she was. "Celia?" I exclaimed, incredulity stamping my words. "Shoo! Quiet!" she hissed, glancing over her shoulder. "I've been looking for you. What are you doing here?" Maya tried, her voice caught between disbelief and mistrust. "I was trying to save you, but this isn't the place," she said, urgency threading her tone. "They've been watching you since you came back to town. You need to get out of here now." "Why should we trust you?" Lucas questioned, arms crossed and determination shining through despite the circumstances. "Because I know more than you think. Trust me, the only way you can uncover the truth is by playing the game." Skepticism flickered between us, but time wasn't our ally. With the weight of her words pressing against us, it felt like there was an invisible clock ticking down toward an explosion, as if every confession hung dangerously in the balance. "Find the room across from the safe house," she continued, her voice barely a whisper. "There's a hidden passage. It's your only chance to turn this around. But once you go in, you have to be ready to fight." "Fight against what?" I pressed, dread pooling in my stomach as her cryptic admonition echoed like a chant in my mind. "Against the puppeteer, of course," she replied, her eyes glinting with resolve. "And the secrets that bind you all." Before I could respond, footsteps from the alley climaxed into the air, swirling like an impending storm, and Celia stepped back, her expression locking into one of resignation and determination. "You'll have to trust me now, Kira. Good luck." And with that, she slipped into the darkness, leaving us three standing at the edge of a precipice, confronted with choices heavier than our fear. Her parting words danced in my mind: secrets, trust, and a fight to uncover the truth. But in their wake, an unsettling question loomed larger than life. With betrayal lurking at every corner, would we emerge stronger, or would we break apart, swallowed whole by the very darkness we aimed to conquer? I turned to look at Lucas and Maya, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on our shoulders. Time slipped like sand through our fingers, and as the shadows grew nearer, I felt an inescapable urge to leap forward into the chasm of truth or risk everything as we took the first step across that thin line, the very fabric of our lives ready to unravel completely. The chill of the night air seeped through my clothes as we stood in silence, Celia's cryptic warning echoing in the hollow space between us. The flickering streetlight cast shadows that danced eerily, mirroring the turmoil brewing inside me. I wanted to believe that there was a path ahead, a way to navigate the twisted road that lay before us. Yet for every heartbeat that thudded against my chest, a deeper question curled around my thoughts. Who could we trust in a world where secrets loomed like specters? Did she seem different to you? Maya finally whispered, her voice trembling, trying to pierce the suffocating silence that enveloped us. I don't know if I can trust her, not after everything. Lucas' brow furrowed as he glanced back towards the alley from which Celia had appeared. Maybe she's right. Maybe that hidden passage is the key. But what if it's a trap? We're already in deep water. As I considered our options, the sound of footsteps grew louder, creeping closer with a sinister intent. The urgency of the moment sent a jolt of adrenaline through me once more. We need to keep moving, I urged, mustering the smallest flicker of determination. We can't stay here. If we go down that path, we just have to be ready for whatever's waiting. I'd rather take my chances with Celia than whatever's chasing us, Maya said, her tone resolute but laced with a quiver of fear. There was bravery in her voice, a fragile strength that urged us onward. Reluctantly, we turned and headed towards the grim promise of the safe house. Each step felt like a descent into a void, echoing the fear gnawing at my insides. The shadows clung to us, the uncertainty of who was ally and who was foe rendering the night heavier and darker. As we reached the next corner, I spotted the facade of what seemed like an unassuming building. Dim light filtered through grimy windows, that same oppressive silence overshadowing us as I glanced at Lucas and Maya. This is it. We must stay low and keep quiet. We slipped inside, the door creaking with age as we crossed the threshold into a narrow hallway. The musty scent of stale air wrapped around us like a forgotten embrace, and I fought against the instinct to retreat. We need to find the room across from the safe house, I reminded them, my voice barely above a whisper. The thread of hope tugged at me from within. If there was a passage, then we might still have a way to restore some semblance of peace. I couldn't shake the weight of Celia's ominous words, however a sense of foreboding that quenched whatever glimmer of optimism flickered in my heart. As the hallway stretched before us, darkness crept along the cracks in the walls. I took a lead, guiding Maya and Lucas behind me, feeling their presence like a balm. I had promised to protect them. Somehow, I needed to hold on to that promise, despite the gnawing question of how. We stopped suddenly as a low murmuring reached our ears. Peering through a window, I caught a glimpse of a gathering in the house across the street. People milled about, their faces obscured in shadow but the tension in the air palpable, charged with secrecy. The sight sent chills crawling down my spine. What do they want? Maya breathed beside me, her eyes wide with apprehension. I don't know, I replied, but if Celia is right, it all ties back to us. We can't underestimate their plans. Without warning, one figure stepped into the light, lifting their voice above the rest. We have to flush them out. They have something we need. If they find that, everything falls apart. Their words pierced through the air, tightening the knot of dread in my gut. Who was this person? What did they know? A sudden realization hit me. If we were just pawns in a much larger game. I felt a gnawing fear that the very act of seeking answers could lead to even greater peril. Suddenly, my cell phone buzzed in my pocket, a lifeline that felt both blessing and cursed. I pulled it out carefully, a beam of light cutting through the darkness as I flicked it on. The screen illuminated an unknown number, one that left my heart racing. Hello? I answered. Quietly, trying to mask the urgency that threatened to expose us. Find the truth within the shadows, Kira, a distorted voice whispered, the words ethereal but filled with a sense of urgency that resonated deep within me. You must hurry. You cannot let them find you. My heart raced as the line went dead, leaving only a deafening silence ringing in my ears. I turned to Lucas and Maya, the realization washing over me like a chilling wave. We have to move. They're getting closer. Closer to what? Lucas pressed, concern etched on his face. A confrontation. I struggled to keep my voice steady, my gaze darting back to the gathering across the way. Fear coiled tightly around me as I felt the oppressive weight of impending chaos bearing down. We need to find the passage. Now, panic rose with every hesitant step as we maneuvered through the darkness, beset by shadows that seemed to whisper threatening promises. As we approached what appeared to be a door at the end of the hallway, I pushed it open, breath hitching in my throat. Inside stood the stark, empty room, echoing with silence. A chill ran down my spine as I stepped further in, the flickering light casting grotesque shapes against the walls. And then we saw a trapdoor in the corner, slightly ajar. "Is this it?" Maya said, hope mingling with trepidation in her voice. "I think so," I replied, barely able to contain my excitement and fear, but just as I prepared to pull it open, a clang reverberated behind us. The voices had returned, sharper, more defined. "Search everywhere. They can't have gone far." We froze, our hearts pounding in unison as we stared back at the door. The blood rushed from my face. There was no turning back now. We were caught between the tide of uncertainty and the perilous leap into an unknown void. With no more time to contemplate our choices, I took a deep breath, preparing to discover the mystery that awaited below. "Do we go?" Lucas asked, his voice barely audible over the encroaching threat that loomed just behind. "We have to," I said, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on my chest. It was now or never. As I reached for the trapdoor, uncertainty coiling tighter with every passing moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had already set in motion a chain of events we could never hope to control. This was our moment, one that would change everything, for better or worse. And beneath the darkness of shadows, the secrets lurking in the depths seemed poised to emerge, waiting to expose the truth or bury us forever. The trapdoor creaked ominously as I pulled it open, revealing a darkened staircase spiraling downward into the abyss. My pulse quickened, each beat echoing the unsteady rhythm of our present fears. The murmur of voices outside surged with urgency, a tidal wave threatening to engulf us. "Ready?" I asked, though my voice barely masked the tremor of doubt that had seeped in. Maya and Lucas exchanged wary glances, the weight of our shared trepidation thickening the air around us. For a fleeting moment, I wondered what lay ahead in those pitch-black depths. Would we find shelter or entrapment? I stole a glance at Maya, her brow knitted in concentration, and Lucas, his lips pursed tightly, his resolve silently etched in the lines of his face. At that moment, our fates were entwined not just by danger but by the promise of unearthing truths that also held the potential to tear us apart. With a deep breath, I took the lead, descending slowly into the unknown. The air turned cooler, and an unsettling quiet enveloped us, amplifying our cautious whispers. Each step echoed like a heartbeat, and the shadows, our uninvited companions, slipped alongside us, intertwining with our breath. "Do you think we're safe here?" Maya asked, her voice breaking the silence, a thread of vulnerability lacing her words. "For now," I replied, though doubt clenched my gut. The thought of what might await us below was relentless, the chill of uncertainty pooling at my feet like a fog. As we reached the bottom, I noticed the remnants of old wooden crates stacked against the walls, draped in a thin layer of dust. We stumbled into a cramped room with cracked walls, their surface marred by peeling paint, whispering stories of forgotten lives. In the corner, a single bulb flickered weakly, casting oscillating shadows that danced against the walls like phantoms from our past. "Is there another exit?" Lucas asked, his eyes darting around, scanning for potential routes. "Let's check," I suggested, though dread seeped into my thoughts. I tried to maintain focus, harboring the hope that this would lead us to safety, away from the chase that was relentlessly pursuing us. As we spread out, my heart sank when I noticed the scrapped papers strewn across the floor, old plans and reports, each one a testament to unfinished business. Curiosity ignited within me momentarily, a fleeting distraction from our survival instincts, and I bent down to inspect the nearest sheet. "Kira." Maya's voice jolted me back to the present, a mix of urgency and panic spilling through her words. From the far corner, she had uncovered a door, slightly ajar, leading to another section. A faint sliver of light squeezed through the gap, hinting at something beyond our current refuge, or perhaps a greater threat. can you hear that? Lucas whispered, his face drawn tight in concentration. Moments passed in silence, and just as I began to shake my head, a low rumble echoed from the direction of the door, sending chills through me. The light flickered, flicking shadows across the space, as if warning us of what lay ahead. Panic surged like a sudden storm. "We need to go," I urged, pushing myself toward the door. Unsure of what awaited us, I was resolute. We couldn't afford to linger. I glanced back at Maya and Lucas, both looking stunned, their hearts racing as fast as mine. "Now," I commanded, urgency flooding my voice. Without hesitation, Maya took the lead, a flicker of courage igniting in her eyes as she pushed through the door first. Lucas followed closely, his grip tensing around my wrist as if anchoring himself to me. What we found made time still. A larger room sprawled out before us, walls lined with floors of dark glass, panels that seemed to hum with unexplained energy. In the center, a sprawling map adorned a table, marked with annotations that suggested plans intricately woven into our fates. Ancillary notes lay scattered alongside, fragments of conversations and strategies revealing the depth of a machination leading back to user lives, a chess match in the hands of unknown players. This can't be real," Maya gasped, eyes wide upon the revelations displayed. "What is this place, headquarters?" Lucas pondered aloud. "The very core of everything we need to figure this out." Before I could respond, I noticed a corner of the map that had been hastily marked with recent dates. My breath caught in my throat. The markings were current-unnervingly recent, and right at the center was a bold X marked over a location that felt all too familiar. I felt the ground shift below me, realization dawning painfully: one of our own had betrayed us. Shadows of doubt crept in, weaving a web of uncertainty. "This means they know about us," I said slowly, the implications crashing over me like waves. "About our search for the passage Celia mentioned," Lucas added, his face paler than I had ever seen. A thud echoed through the room, shattering our spiraled thoughts. Footsteps approached quickly, and hellish dread rekindled in the pit of my stomach. "Hide!" I shouted as their voices grew closer, crashing reality falling upon us like a monstrous shadow. We dove behind the heavy table that bore witness to our fate, panting hurriedly as the legs of the table trembled beneath us. As they entered the room, their voices ignited the space with tension. "We can't let them uncover the truth," one command echoed sharply. "Find them. They need to be silenced before they expose everything." I turned to Maya and Lucas, their faces pale but resolute. The truth behind Celia's warning, the cryptic phone call, the map, it all brimmed with perilous danger, and we stood perilously close to its epicenter. "Whatever happens, we stick together," I whispered, squeezing their hands tightly. But as the shadows loomed larger, I couldn't shake the realization that our escape was just a heartbeat away from unraveling. The very foundation of our trust began to tremble, and with the secrets stirring around us, I knew we had crossed into a realm from which there might be no return. In that moment, a revelation struck with unyielding clarity: the shadows were merely puppets, but we were not the ones pulling the strings. The air grew heavy inside that room, thick with a palpable tension as the voices of our pursuers drew closer. Time felt like it was slowly bleeding away, the moments stretching into a tense eternity while we huddled behind the table. I could hear the whispers, the urgent commands echoing in the air, and each word felt like a nail being driven deeper into my unease. "Pay attention. They must be here," one of them hissed, sending shivers down my spine. I could feel my brother's breath hitch next to me, and my pulse quickened, the fear now a living creature clawing at my insides. Maya squeezed my hand tight, her presence both grounding and electrifying. This was a moment where we either stood united or let fear fragment us into oblivion. As the shadows loomed larger, I couldn't shake the realization that our escape was just a heartbeat away from unraveling. Every second felt infinite, yet I instinctively understood the gravity of our choices. Would we hide and let them pass? Or risk everything for the truth? The map on the table, the ominous X marking the target, felt like a storm cloud overhead, dark and brewing. "Listen, we're not here to play games," one voice stated firmly, the sound laden with authority. "We find them, and we finish this." The finality of those words ignited a fierce resolve within me. All at once, I realized we had come too far, every step, every sacrifice, every moment they had led us to this point in time, and I couldn't simply hide anymore. With a deep breath that trembled in my chest, I leaned closer to my companions, low whispers breaking the thick air. When I say go, we make a run for it. Straight for that door. I gestured toward a less traveled exit, my heart hammering as I hoped fervently that there was a chance of escaping the web around us. They both nodded, understanding pouring between us like a current unspoken but wholly felt. We were enmeshed in this together, bound by the gravity of blood and loyalty. Ready? I whispered, mustering all the bravery I could summon. At that moment, the door creaked open, and I went cold. Shadows spilled into the space like smoke, feet thudding against the floor, and my breath caught in my throat. The figures were stark contrasts of the chaos we battled every day, their faces masked with resolve that mirrored my own unraveled doubt. It was time. Now. I bellowed, adrenaline surging through my veins as we bolted from behind the table. The rush was dizzying, and in a flurry of movement, we sprinted toward the door. Heart pounding, mind racing, I glanced back just for a brief moment only to meet the steely gaze of one of our pursuers. Stop! They shouted, but it was already too late. We barreled through the door and into the unknown, the cool night air rushing to greet us, but it was heavier this time, filled with the essence of confrontation and unyielding truths. We emerged into a narrow alley, breathless and frantic. Which way? Lucas gasped, fear flickering in his eyes. The chaos from moments before was still alive in my bones, and every instinct screamed at me to keep running, to keep moving. Follow me. I shouted, veering left, adrenaline propelling me forward while worry churned in my stomach. We darted through unfamiliar streets, the sound of footsteps behind us ever present, igniting the fire of determination while doubt clawed at my resolve. Where are we going? Maya panted as we turned a corner. Her voice trembled slightly, but I couldn't dwell on it. We needed a plan, but what was that plan? I don't know. Was the truth that escaped my lips, but I didn't stop. I wouldn't stop until I had a firmer grasp on our destiny. And yet, the clarity I sought eluded me. Rounding another corner, I spotted a shadow, a figure cloaked in darkness, leaning against the wall with a knowing smirk that sent a ripple of recognition through me. Celia, Celia? I called out, failing to mask my shocked surprise. What are you doing here? There's no time. They're not far behind you, she urged, pushing away from her perch, swift and light like a phantom. You need to follow me to safety. My heart raced. And while vulnerability swept through me, another part of me blared alarms of incredulity. Why should we trust you? Lucas questioned, stepping protectively in front of Maya. The fierceness in his eyes ignited a tumult of stubbornness inside me. Because I'm the only chance you have right now. You want the truth? Follow. Celia beckoned, the sincerity in her voice striking a dissonant chord. I felt the weight of burden beginning to merge with hope, an unusual sensation fighting hard against the steep inclines of uncertainty. Just like that? After everything? Maya challenged, still cautious but unyielding in her loyalty to Lucas and me. Listen, Celia hissed, glancing over her shoulder as we hesitated. It's either this or face a fate worse than the truth itself. I know what I'm asking, but in this game, you have to trust someone, or you'll be lost before you know it. My heart leapt at her words. Trust. A word that felt heavy, laden with promises and buried sorrows. Was it worth the risk? Trust had led us here, hadn't it? Let's go, I decided, wading through the eddies of uncertainty gathering at my feet. The choice resonated deeply, and I turned to Lucas and Maya, gauging their expressions for the reflections of my own turbulent thoughts that threatened to spill over. Together? Maya asked, squeezing Lucas's hand tightly, and a flicker of understanding transitioned in his gaze. Always, he replied, and with that unyielding promise echoing through us, we made our choice. In tandem, we followed Celia into the heart of shadows, into the uncertainty that awaited, the truth weaving itself into our tightly knit fabric of fate. As we clambered through the narrow passageways she guided us through, my heart beat a wild crescendo caught between faith in what lay ahead and the perilous road behind us. Here. Celia stopped at a door that seemed indistinguishable from the shadows. She pressed a hand against it, and it swung open with barely a sound. Beyond the threshold lay a room imbued with muted light, walls lined with old files like tendrils of memories clawing forth from the past. This looked like a base, a den ripe with history. As we stepped inside, Celia closed the door behind us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we had entered a realm where shadows gathered, secrets churned, and truths lay in wait. "Welcome to the heart of it all," she announced, a glint of triumph shimmering in her eye, but the weight of apprehension still hung in the air like an uninvited guest. "Where are we?" Maya asked hesitantly, glancing around the room, anticipation mingled with dread. "This is where plans are made. Where the truth is unveiled. But more importantly, this is where you learn that the puppeteers don't just manipulate strings, they are tethered to every act, every betrayal," Celia replied, her words resonating like the silent drum of a heart poised on the precipice. "The game isn't over. It's just begun." Her voice hung heavy in the air, coiling over us with undeniable gravity. As I looked at Lucas and Maya, their determination ignited beside mine, I felt the ghosts of everything unspoken grip at my heart, shadows yearning for light, truths whispering through the darkness. We had come too far to turn back now. And in that moment, I understood nothing would ever be the same. The weight of sacrifice pressed down, breathing shadows into the corners of my soul. But I felt the fire rising. We'd face whatever truth awaited, and whatever battle lay ahead, we'd fight together against the puppeteers wielding those strings. United by our scars, we stepped further into the heart of the tempest, ready to unearth the tangled threads of our destinies together. We would carve through the shadows until we reached the light. I felt the echo of our laughter bound to the journey that lay ahead, a delicate promise ivy-vined within the depths of our souls, and with one final glance at each other, our eyes gleamed with a fierce determination that illuminated even the darkest corners. The embers of courage ignited within us, signaling that we would emerge transformed, as we plunged into the storm and faced whatever weapon the puppeteers might wield. "Let's find the truth," I whispered, echoing the heartbeat of the moment, the decisive swell of the unknown poised at our fingertips, ready for the world to know. The puppeteers may pull the strings, but we owned our fate together. And in that union, I knew we would discover who we truly were, our true selves, tethered not by puppet strings, but by the unyielding bond of family, trust, and the flickering brilliance of hope.